in Germany, and the experiments with Josef Mengele. What was it? A shot. And these were crimes against humanity. And what came out of that? The Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg trial. Informed consent is at the top, and that is punishable. Violating that is punishable by death.
Punishable by death. A Republican lawmaker in Maine's state legislature essentially calling for the execution of the governor for calling for a a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers.
Okay, look guys, the calls for violence from the Republicans are crystal clear.
So you're probably familiar with Mike Lindell from his pillows, I imagine, but also his radical politics. And at least as of right now, he's a big money guy on the right. Very soon his entire fortune will probably be owned by Dominion and Smartmatic. But for right now, he's got a lot of money that he's giving to Republican causes. But how did he go from a guy who sells pillows online to someone who's tied in with Donald Trump and legal challenges to the election and Newsmax and all of that? Well, right now at 2it.com, we've got a great write-up of some of the ways that he got radicalized. And it all really has to do, Jonathan Larson did some amazing researching in this, and we're only going to skim the surface of a complex story. It has to do with a shadowy group known as the Fellowship Foundation, or the Family, which Jonathan Larson has done great reporting on for a number of years. And so we're gonna give you details as to how the Family brought Lindell into right-wing politics. And there's a lot of interesting information here. But as we go through this, one of the reasons I think this is so important is that the Family and right-wing politics, you can sort of get the Christianity on right-wing politics is a long-standing thing. But this is something that has drawn in a lot of Democratic politicians as well, including people like Barack Obama. Their yearly events, that's a thing that Democrats go to as well. So understand that as we're talking about how they created the monster that is Mike Lindell. So what we basically have is the 2016 National Prayer Breakfast. So that's one of their yearly events, and Mike Lindell ended up going to this particular instance of it. So how did he end up getting invited? Well, when you ask him, he says, I was invited at the last minute by my friend Stephen Baldwin. You know, as happens, I guess. But apparently it wasn't really, there you go. So is he actually to blame though, Stephen Baldwin? Well, not necessarily. So Stephen Baldwin has his own ministry called the Stephen Baldwin Ministry, which sort of makes sense. And there's an individual named Wilfred Job who runs that particular ministry. And it appears that it's actually him, Wilfred Job, who has close ties with the family himself, who invited Mike Lindell to the 2016 National Prayer Breakfast. Now, the interesting thing about that is, what does it matter necessarily? Well, I don't know, but it sure seems to matter to Lindell, because when you ask him about, for instance, about Wilfred Job, he says, I don't know who you're talking about. Which is fine, except that Job is actually listed as the president of the Lindell Foundation in 2017. And when you ask Mike Lindell about that, he says, go to jail, go somewhere and find yourself a nice jail cell, because that's where you're gonna end up. Goodbye. Which is a strong reaction when you ask him about a guy he claims not to know about. He at one point gets taken to a breakout session with Ben Carson, who's running for president at this point. He's brought into the breakout session by Larry Ross, who is the family's spokesperson and a key leader. So what, did they bring him to hang out with Ben Carson, a guy they were hoping would be president because they want to have a great conversation about pillows? No, he's like trying to set up Carson with a potential donor. But Lindell says he heard a prophecy in the room. He says, and I really, really wish at this point that I had a Lindell impression, but alas I don't. In that room we were praying. A guy in there prophesized in there. He said, 2 of you in this room are gonna become great friends and change the course of history. And Ben and I are great friends. And he said, and I'm sitting there though, as they're praying and he's saying that, I go, if one of them's me, who would the other be? And things started happening to me.
Oh. No, but that's
a grown adult.
I know, but John, that's exactly what I'm talking about. He has this almost childlike innocence. When they bring him into the room, they say, oh, we did a random group of people from the prayer breakfast gathering, right? Random group: Ben Carson, Stephen Baldwin, Mike Lindell, who's incredibly rich.
That seems pretty random to me.
And one of the leaders of the family. You schmuck, that's obviously not random. Again, if you bring in one of the Koch brothers and he's a sophisticated actor and he goes, oh, okay, I get it, you guys are pitching me something, that's fine, okay, pitch away. And maybe I like it, maybe I don't, right? But this guy has no idea. He's like, oh, what an amazing coincidence. My daughter is 8 years old, and whenever she sees a coincidence, she thinks we're Barbies and that someone is playing with us, okay? And she goes, oh, we're Barbies, right?
She figured out simulation theory.
Yeah, exactly, right? And Lindell is a grown-ass man, runs a large company. He's like, oh my God, we're Barbies. Like, what a coincidence. We all happen to be in the same room.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 2 of us are gonna change the course of history. I wonder if it's me and the guy I need to give all my money to.
The bar is so low, like to impress him, like one of you will be hungry. And like his stomach rumbles and he's like, I'm gonna give someone every dollar I have. No, but anyway, look, let's give the connection to Trump though, because other stuff happens, spirituality, turning the path of the nation, blah, blah, blah. So Carson eventually drops out of his presidential run after only briefly leading the field, and other than that, it was all Trump. So Carson told Donald Trump about Mike Lindell, who then gets invited to meet Donald Trump. The day before the meeting, Lindell donated $2,700 to Trump's campaign, $17,300 to the Republican National Committee, and $20,000 to Trump victory. That's before meeting Donald Trump. He's already ponying up a BMW effectively in campaign donations. And look, it's not a coincidence. There's a source that Larson has. It says, if you can convince him, oh, we're doing this amazing work, he might just be the kind of guy that gives you $10 million. Or he might be the kind of guy that puts you on his charitable foundation board and gives you a salary.